You're listening to Ever Vital from Vita Lirita, where vitality truly lives. Ever wonder how some people maintain triple the energy no matter their age? I am Valeria, your host. Today, we meet Angie, a high achiever who transformed her drive into calm, lasting health through smart habits and mastering stress. As you listen, you may feel your own stress begin to fade, making room for peace and tranquility. Ready to uncover the best kept secrets of Chinese anti aging wisdom? Stay tuned.
So, Angie, do you mind sharing with us how old you are?
All right. So I am 64 years old as of June this year.
No,
So
you're
that old,
not.
of course I am. And it is kind of fun, though, to be fair, I won't take entire credit for it. I just think it's a little bit of the genes that I came with. Because trust me, when I was, a high school student, I looked all of 12 years old. So good luck trying to get a date then, right? So this is payback time, right?
This
But
is so funny.
yeah, I am 64 years old and happy to own it.
There's something to be said. First of all, you look great.
Thank
Um,
you.
and I acknowledge Ben, my husband, also looks a lot younger than his physical age. So, yes, I recognize the role of the Asian genes play
Right.
in the way you guys look. But also, you were the only person at our wedding dancing for, I don't know, over an hour. And there were friends of mine there who were in their, early 30s, even 20s, and even they didn't last that long. So I really appreciate the level of energy that you brought to our wedding, and I'm super curious. So tell me a little bit more about the role of diet in all of
Yes.
this.
So, yeah, but just to answer, to back up a little bit, there's a little bit of a cheat there because you have to understand I love dancing. I live and breathe dancing. So it didn't take a lot for me to be out there on the dance floor. Um,
That makes
but
sense.
yes, you're not wrong that I do feel that diet, it plays a very big role in how well we feel in general. And I didn't come to this very early. I think as a child, I was a notoriously picky eater, but what I realized is at the time I was unaware, I was lactose intolerant. So, not being aware of that, it was just very difficult for me to like finish that ice cream or, drink a lot of milk, whereas everyone was just, I would be in the lunch line and everyone was just chugging down the milk and eating that. And I was like, I take 3 bites and my stomach is telling me I am full, right? So I'm very petite, as you know, Valeria. I'm only
Yeah,
5'2", stretching it. Okay. But
confirmed.
yeah, I think that, over the years and certainly growing up in the United States, we have so much abundance and it's easy just to eat anything and everything. And I did have a very high metabolism rate, so it wasn't hard to eat whatever I wanted and, you know, not have a problem with it at all. So I was lucky in that way. I was blessed. But I will say that when I had 2 young children, about the time, let's see, I was a young mother, I had my first bout of Hashimoto's disease, which is a thyroid issue. And it was the first time that I was not really in control of my body. Um, Actually, I take that back. After 5 years working overseas in China, when I came back to the United States, I found that I had developed a lot of allergies as well. Certain foods would just kick off, not necessarily an anaphylactic attack where I could no longer breathe, but I would break out in hives. My blood pressure would drop low. And so that already was a little bit of my body signaling to me, you have to change some of the ways you do something. You have to be careful now of certain foods that you may have loved. So I firmly believe, Valeria, that it is a combination of environmental factors, perhaps the pollution I'm exposed to and things coupled with the kind of foods I'm taking in my body. And here is my body trying to know what to do, who's the invader, who's not the invader, getting some of the signals crossed, right? So that let me know that I had to start staying away from certain foods, foods that I loved. So that puts the idea that there are some things you can take in and that will be good, and some that you cannot, right? But fast forward many years, my young daughter, she was ready to go to college. She started her first semester at, Princeton University. And within a couple of weeks, though, her whole body kind of almost rebelled against her. She had what I could only call was almost like chronic fatigue, like a crashing of her body. Now, just prior to her starting school, she had taken a gap year and done a lot of things, traveling the world, working with animals and all sorts. And so, even though she was young, she did face some challenges. She, picked up C. difficile in one area. She had salmonella. These were difficult things that she had to recover from. And so, when the body is under that kind of shock and stress, you treat it for the emergency at the moment. But perhaps we didn't realize what it had done to her system, all through. I think you've probably heard a lot about gut health and the microbiome. All of that was
Definitely.
starting to become much more better understood, but at the time it was a very nascent thing. So, we took her to doctor after doctor, and traditional medicine could only operate in one direction. They were like, this is our wheelhouse. Let us test and see if she has this. Nope, she doesn't have this. So in our book, she's fine. But you looked at her and she was not fine. So fast forward, the only thing that we finally found the solution from was from a biochemist in Long Island who was wonderful. And he basically said, I don't know, but this is what I suspect. Why don't you put her on a diet that is very restrictive? Okay. And here are the reasons I'm cutting out these foods like spinach, that's inflammatory. I'm like, spinach? You're kidding. He goes, for now, let's cut it out. Let's get her off the gluten. Let's get her off a variety of things. Let's jumpstart her body a little bit with a series of supplements because let's make sure she's getting all the minerals she needs. Let's get her a form of NADH, which is advanced adrenaline, because really, he's
Oh,
like, she
wow.
might have, her system is crash. It's like adrenal fatigue. Let's start building up a proper flora in her gut, her microbiome. Let's take probiotics and then bit by bit, let's see what we can do. But get her off, all these things. He was the only one that managed to turn the situation around. Within 2 weeks, we started seeing noticeable change bit by
Two
bit. Her
weeks.
energy came back, just bit by bit. But it was the only thing that had, brought about any kind of, it turned the ship around. Like prior to that, I took her to acupuncture. I took her to, holistic, traditional Chinese medicine, and nothing was really resolving the issue. But this change in the diet, along with the supplements to get her jump started over time, really was the ticket. Now, good luck telling a young teenager
Oh,
who
yeah.
is just starting college to stay off gluten, stay off the sugar,
Oh, yeah.
up the leaves and the meats, everything, right? And so it was very hard to get her to commit. So she and we found a holistic, functional doctor here in our home in Charlotte. And just to sort of support her, I decided to go along and I said, whatever Vienna's going to do diet wise, I will do as well because I want to understand just how difficult it is to maintain this. Because if it's hard for me, I will be much more empathetic to understanding what she faces, and maybe we can work out step by step what to do together. So that's kind of how I got started on what was essentially a paleo keto diet, cutting out the carbohydrates, cutting out the gluten, the sugar, the excess. At that time, cutting out the dairy as well,
Oh,
and trying
wow.
to find the foods that would be able to provide us everything we needed. I have to tell you, the effects were dramatic. Um, I was full of energy. I was not that I needed to lose weight, but it was more muscle mass. Let's put it, it was leaner body, indexes. And it just was really quite, people were noticing. They were like, what are you doing? What is it that's different? And I would tell him, "Oh, I'm just, trying this paleo keto diet." And it was really very effective.
And you did it
But
to support your daughter. You
And I
you
did
did
it
it
to
to, yeah,
support my daughter, yes.
yeah.
And so bit by bit, and this is good for anyone who has children or parents, go gradual. Like, don't try to bite off
Mhm.
everything at once. It was a bargain, it was a negotiation. It was like, first, she was like, okay, I will definitely stay off the gluten, but don't take away, my dairy and my ice cream yet. I'm like, okay, that's
Oh,
fine. You can take an enzyme for that. And then a little bit later, she's like, okay, mom, I get it. I'm going to start whittling off the dairy and I'm going to start cutting back on the sugary kinds of things. And let's see how far we can go with that. Right.
and
So
and do you
piece
think
by piece.
yeah, yeah, that makes total sense. And would you say that helped to make it more sustainable? I don't know how long you were able to
Yes,
maintain.
yes. It's
Yeah.
definitely more sustainable. And trust me, like the pendulum always swings back and forth, right?
Okay.
She'll just, fall off the wagon occasionally, as would I, right? But then we try to get back on it. Now, I have to say that in the beginning, I was very rigorous, I had apps to help keep track of the food. I was looking for the recipes, clearing out the pantry, and that was wonderful. But it does take a lot of discipline. And so, at times you just are thinking, am I enjoying life? With this kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
comes extreme restriction and energy just going to tracking how much I'm eating because the rest of real life just kind of happens, right? And so over time, I did relent. I am not on a straight paleo keto diet now, even though I know it could potentially, optimize my health even more. But given how we want to live our lives and we need to be a little bit flexible and adjust to whatever arises, uh, it's good to be forgiving. It's good to say, here is what works for me in this moment and this time. And it's just a part of life being flexible. But I take away the lessons that I got from the paleo diet, right? Because
Right.
that kind of knowledge or education now sort of lets us know if you reduce your sugars, you will feel much better. If you increase your sugars, you're going to get a little of that inflammation that maybe you don't want. So go into it knowing it's an intentional thing. You are agreeing to be a little less kind to the inners of your body because you're being a little bit kinder to a moment's gratification or perhaps a social situation where you just want to enjoy that camaraderie of things, right? Um, if I eat a little more carbs one day, I will try to, be better the next couple of weeks. Obviously, if I'm in with a big Chinese family, there's no way we're getting around like gluten when we're having dumplings and noodles. And right?
I hear that.
Right, right. Now I'm lucky that I don't have celiac sprue or something that requires me to have to be incredibly strict with that diet. And I totally understand when people do. I am so grateful. I have many friends who do suffer from celiac or a serious gluten intolerance. But I am able to understand that keeping off the gluten is perhaps helping the autoimmune reaction I have that is responsible in part for my thyroid condition. So, push that at my own risk, shame on me. But you live life. You need to fill life with what brings you joy, right? So there's always a little bit of trade-off.
It's a trade-off, definitely. Yeah. And so you already brought up some of the challenges that may or may not, every once in a while, I guess, cause a slip for, is it for both you and your daughter? Or
Yes,
just you?
yes.
It's
No.
totally human, I get it. And so you already mentioned that social situations could pose a challenge when you want to enjoy the company and the food that everybody's having. Would there be any other kind of challenges that you would like to highlight?
So And then this is why I would say, to your audience, because I don't want them to feel like, I want them to feel like what is attainable and what's attainable for me.
Exactly.
We all go through periods where there's
Yeah,
huge stress. There are unpredictable things in life, right? And when things are really stressful, it is very hard because a lot of your energy is directed towards uh, dealing with that stress or coping with that. And so sometimes you just don't have the willpower left to like keep your diet so rigid, so pure, let's put it that way. You can always, over time say, if I keep my diet on a more stable basis, that may help me cope much better because the more health I can give my body, the better it will be equipped. But let's face it, sometimes a bag of like, popcorners is just going to make you feel so much better in the moment. So what you do is you
yeah,
say, okay, it's still gluten-free, at least. It's a little bit low on the sugar. I just need that in this moment. And you forgive yourself. You don't like give yourself a hard time or whatever it is. Um, but I will say that habit as well helps you keep on an even keel. And it is definitely true that let's say you lower your sugar or your salt for a period of time. Once it becomes habit, it really is true that the body adjusts. Like I don't crave really sweet things. And in fact, if I have, a piece of birthday, cake, even if it's gluten-free, it'll taste too sweet to me. So that readjustment and that recalibration really does happen in the body as well. So, over the long term, if you give your body the chance to sort of adjust, it will actually be okay. It will actually change some of those cravings, right?
that's a really
Um,
good point, and that makes it easier because physiologically, you no
right.
longer have that strong of a need.
That's right. That's right. You don't have as strong of the need. But, all it takes is something that throws the routine out of the window. That is the most difficult time then. And once your routine is out the window, it's easy for everything sort of to lose some of the supportive structure that keeps you on it, right? So a lot of
Exactly.
times, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And for since you brought up stress and how it can make everything go just sideways, um, I'm guilty of that. That's what caused my huge keto fluctuations. And I myself, just like you, am off that strict version of keto right now. I still try
Yes.
to follow the low carb kind of
Yes.
approach.
Yes.
And sometimes I fail. I am in school right now, and sometimes it gets
Yes.
stressful. Do you have any tips for like, okay, I guess we can
Yeah.
all afford one day of, I don't know, eating the desserts that we want to eat. I'm huge on chocolate, so for me, that's the indulgence. But do you have any tips? Like maybe there could be other ways, like day one, okay, I have all the chocolate I need, but day two, I need to make sure that I handle my stress differently.
Yes,
Um,
yes. So there are a couple of things that I think might help. Or at least this is what I do. Okay. Uh, so one is like I too love chocolate.
chocolate is
So,
awesome.
so again, it's a little bit of experimenting with yourself to understand what is workable for you and not. I won't deprive myself of chocolate, but what I might do is I might gradually inch up the percentage, right? So, for instance, if you're eating 70% chocolate, you're already reducing a little bit of the sugar. If you can go up to like 80% or 85% and tolerate a little more bitter and a little less of the sugar, that too is maybe a good place to be. So then if you're only eating like, a couple of little pieces of the chocolate and it's like 80%, so what? Because chocolate has benefits as well, right? It has
Exactly, it's
good
full of
things.
antioxidants.
It's full of antioxidants. And so one of it is just gradually being conscious that every food that you take in is sort of a balance of nutrients and ingredients and the cost in calories and maybe the stuff that's not so good for you, whether it's the fat, the sugar, the sodium, or so on. And so you just start sort of being a little gentle, but balancing in your mind that, okay, if I eat this chocolate, that's adding a little bit in my calorie column and maybe a little less in the proteins and the, vitamins and the other things I need, right? But but you don't go crazy. You don't lash yourself or anything about that. The second thing I find that is helpful is also, this is more of like a maybe a Chinese medicine thing or a nutritional thing is just even the order that you eat foods in can help you kind of
Mm,
modulate and moderate your cravings. So anytime if I start a meal, I generally like to start it with leafy greens, vegetables, you name it. Well, actually, first fluids, right? Just drinking the water all day, because a lot of times our hunger is maybe really thirst that's masking as
very
hunger,
true.
right? So, you might as well take in the fluids first and see if that kind of takes the edge off those cravings. But then, if I am hungry, I know I'll just grab a bunch of leafy greens first. And because this serves two purposes. One is by chewing, you get your enzymes going. So any food you take in afterward will hopefully be broken down more efficiently and effectively, and you're going to get more of those nutrients out of it, right? Then the second thing I always try to do is consume my proteins before I consume carbs. So even if there are carbs on my plate, just by eating the greens and then eating the proteins, I'm going to have less need for the carbs, and my stomach will already be partly filled with the things that I know will give me the biggest bang for the buck, right? The most
Makes
energy.
sense. Yeah.
Yes. So then you have a little bit of the carbs, but at least you can always pat yourself on the back because what you didn't do is what you didn't start with the carbs, right? Which is so
Exactly.
easy to do. And then like stuff yourself with the carbs and that taste is just so gratifying. And then all of a sudden your stomach is full of carbs. You're not really hungry. You're even feeling a little bit sick, perhaps. And now you have no room for your greens and your proteins. So in the course of the day, then have you been good to your body, right? And so ultimately, you can say it comes down to a little bit of self love for yourself. If you can just sort of kind of get it in the habit of a certain order or whatever, you can think of it as just taking care of your body a little bit better, right?
Absolutely. And you also get a lot of fiber in. You
You
need
do. You get
fiber.
the fiber, which is always a good thing, right?
Yeah,
So,
definitely. Okay,
oh,
and so first come the vegetables, and then after
protein, any kind of
protein,
proteins you have, and then the carbs.
and then the
Or,
carbs,
yeah. And then
if you
once
have
you're,
any room left.
if you have any room left, exactly. And then afterwards, if you really do need to hit the sweet dessert part, go with fruit first, right? Even if you
Mhm.
have that like pineapple cake or something waiting afterwards, just have the orange first, or just have a couple of slices of apples first, or just have something that is sweet enough. But again, like you said, is a whole food, has fiber, is natural, and that maybe then you may need not won't even need the sweet afterwards, right? But if you do, again, you filled up. So you only need a little bit, right? Just a little
Exactly.
bit.
I like that. The order. Yeah, the
And
order of the
that's easy to
foods.
do. That's easy
Yeah,
to do. So if you're at a restaurant or if, anyone puts a plate of food down in front of you, you always have control of the order yourself, right?
absolutely. Yeah, and I just wanted to circle back to managing stress and different ways to do that. And I was wondering if you have explored any ways to manage stress that are not food related. So you already mentioned you love dancing.
I do. I
Yeah,
do.
do you ever use it as a stress relief technique?
Oh, so much, so much. If I'm in a bad mood, I think this is common to many people. All you have to do is put on some of your favorite music and like dance like crazy for 10 minutes, and it just releases so much. I mean, you just, you're, I'm just so happy. You're just happy. Now I understand not everybody's a dancer, right? So that may not provide the same endorphins for everybody, but certainly that's something that I like to do. But I think that, again, just over time, movement of the body has always been a great way to sort of put myself in a different frame of mind. I think, like in this day and age, there is constant stress and our attention is constantly absorbed, 24/7. There's just so much that's being asked of us to do. You're on 24/7, especially if you're working globally. And sometimes it's just really hard to turn things off. I am definitely a type A person. I think no one would. I'm so much calmer now than I used to be. So, it's really funny. But, so what happens is, even and this may go back, even when I was a little girl and my grandfather came to live with us for a while, he was the one whom I first learned Tai Chi from, Tai Chi
Tai
Chuan,
Chi.
because he would do it every day, like without fail. And it was such a beautiful, slow motion. And I just remember being, Grandpa, what are you doing? And he would just laugh and goes, I'm doing the Tai Chi. So of course, as a kid, I would start copying him and he would teach me. And I think it's because I have both the memory of my grandfather and how wonderful it felt to be in communion with him doing it. It's always been something that I know I can go back to, that flow and that movement. When I was a young student, or rather a teacher in China, I took myself over to the People's Republic of China. Really didn't know anybody there, right? And so everything was new. There were serious times of loneliness, right? But what I could always do is get up in the morning and go to the park, and there would always be a group doing Tai Chi Chuan, Qi Zhu Jian, any one of these numbers of movements. And I would just join and I would just do it, and it would just set my tone for the day. It's it's just been something that I could always do and carry with me wherever I go. So I don't know if that answered your question.
He did, but I admit I don't know enough about Tai Chi. I haven't tried. I'm in Vancouver, as you know,
Right,
in
right.
Canada, and so here there are like sometimes you'll see a group just like you described,
Yes.
a group of usually Asians, and usually somewhere like they would be very not necessarily like enclosed in an enclosed space. They usually
Uh-huh.
they do it in parks. Um,
That's right. They're in
but
parks.
I never felt entitled to just joining.
Oh,
I would be so self-conscious. I would be like, oh, am I doing the right
you should
moves?
not worry about that at all because they're in the park. They're completely open, and I am guessing that okay, obviously, one of two things will happen, right, Valeria? You'll go in, you'll say, can I join? You don't even have to ask usually. Usually you just start joining. And one
Really?
of two things will happen. Either they'll smile and they'll be excited that you're joining, and they'll just kind of let you continue on and do it. Or maybe they'll be terrible about it. And maybe they will be like, oh, excuse me, this is a closed class, and all of us have been doing it. And that's fine. If that's the way they are, you don't need them. But that's generally not the way anyone who is practicing Tai Chi is going to take it. No one is really paying there. No one is like on any kind of an ego thing. And everybody, I mean, it's just kind of a given part of the culture. So I don't think you have anything to worry about. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? What's the worst thing that could happen? They could be
It's
horrible. And then it's not you, it's them, isn't it? So you have nothing
see,
to worry about.
I guess I wouldn't even know if I'm horrible. So I think you're
But
right.
here's the thing. Here's the
Yeah.
thing. It doesn't even have to be Tai Chi. When I was younger, because I was very type A, I don't know, I had more time and energy to actually always pursue something that was physical. And when you're younger, and this is your prerogative, you believe there's always room for improvement. There's room to get better at something, whether it's working out the weights or, improving the body or the dance. And so I had always been doing something, whether it was Pilates, starting early and doing Pilates for many, many years. But then as I get older, sometimes, the time, the money, and the effort to find a studio with a reformer and this gets to be a bit much, especially with kids. So you always adjust to what you can do, right? And then I sort of segued into yoga because yoga did not require all this equipment or reformers or things like that. And it was very fulfilling in its own way, right? It's still a body conscious movement and it has the meditation and the breath and as many layers as you want to go into it. So yoga was very, very much the thing that I would do. But again, in the beginning, younger, it was great. It was a social thing too. I would go and meet my friends there. We would do hot yoga. We would do a variety of yoga. But the beauty of it is, even as time, pulled us apart, so our schedules became different, we couldn't do it together. Yoga is still something I can do anytime, any place, because all it takes is a mat, right? So
Exactly.
once you absorb a certain amount and you understand the benefits for yourself, you can do it anytime, anywhere, as needed. And that's the beauty of the kinds of physical things I do. I love going to a gym. I love, working out with the machines and the weights, but I am always grateful for the things that I can do on my own in a pinch if I don't have time to go to a gym or I don't have the ability, or if I happen to be in a hotel that doesn't happen to have a gym, right? I can still roll out the mat in my hotel room or on a balcony. I can still do a set of Qigong 8 brocades, or I could do a set of yoga movements on my own, right? And so
Yeah.
certain things you can take and do anytime on your own. And it
For
doesn't have
free.
to be like
Yeah.
this.
For free, and all you need is your own body and maybe one more tool. And sometimes some people would do it on the floor when they need to. And
That's
sometimes you can
right.
just go for, I don't know, a brisk walk or not even.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because, I will tell you that you're maybe wondering about routines and habits that I might do. In the
Absolutely.
morning, yes, one of the first things I love to do is just go outside. I love to like greet the day in the sun. It's helpful because I have 2 dogs, right? So you have to go out in the morning. If you have dogs, you're absolutely going to go out. But that's part of the joy that they bring me. They ensure that I go out. They ensure that we go out, we sniff the new day, we see what's out there, and you just have like 5 minutes of greeting the new day, right? So
And
uh,
a little bit of movement already
yeah, yeah.
to your
If the weather
day.
is nice, I can even do my 8 brocades outside. If the weather is not nice, that's where it's nice. I can do it inside, right? And we just take the kids out. But I mean, the kids, the dogs, right? But
You
honestly,
can
yeah.
you can do what? Sorry, what did you say? Eight arcades?
Oh, yes,
Uh,
yes. So the
uh,
8 brocades is a
yeah,
set of Qigong movements,
I
and it's
see.
literally a set of 8 movements that kind of is meant to sort of cover maybe all the parts of your body in general for health. Um, and it's not the only set of movements. I mean, there are many movements, but it's sort of a nice little comprehensive known set. There are many styles too. I learned one style from one person, and then I learned
Mhm.
another one from a different person. So they will actually do the movements slightly different, but it doesn't matter because the fundamentals are the same. So it's called Ba Duan Jing, right? So
Oh,
8 brocades is what it's called.
eight for
Yeah.
kids. I feel like I'm getting a crash course on Chinese mostly. Would you say those were Chinese methods?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, they're those are the Chinese ones. Though I imagine that, in most of Asia, they probably had the same thing, just kind of described in a different way, whether it's under, Korean culture or Japanese or, any of the other ones. But in general, yeah, I know the Chinese version, right? So yeah.
yes, yes, that makes absolute sense. And I just wanted to talk also, and we're going to start wrapping up soon. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the concept of aging
Right.
and whether it was dynamic for you over the years. And I'll tell you a little bit where I'm coming from with this question. I'm 35, and by some people
Young.
I'm considered young. Yes, by some people I am considered. For some people I'm considered old, and
Oh,
but from my own kind of like internal experience of being that I definitely have a lot less energy in the morning when I
Yeah.
wake up. I can feel it, and definitely at the end of the day, um, more often than not, I feel I have accomplished a lot less than I would have when I was 25. And I do consider myself, just like you, a type A person. And I think it's definitely nurture, not nature kind of thing. Um, and
Yeah.
so um and I am trying, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to chat with you today, and I hope to be able to talk to more people
Yeah.
about how they go about aging, because I see a lot of people who love it. They find they respect themselves more, and they like being kind of like more aware of the level of energy they have, and they kind of give themselves a license to
Yes.
distribute this energy differently now, or invest it differently from
Yes.
the way it was done when they were younger.
Yeah.
So do you have any comments on that? Anything you want to share?
Yeah. I think you've hit on it. I think that that is what goes hand in hand. Like, okay, going back to the Chinese, the yin yang symbol, right? How we
Oh,
have the dark and the light, and there is a dot of the dark in the light, and there's a dot of the light in the dark, because the idea is without the contrast to push against, you can't appreciate what you have, right? So you're definitely right. Things out in the body will change. The energy that we had at 25 is not going to be what we have at 35. And you're still very young, Valeria. Wait till other things start to go. Like, oh my gosh, when my eyes kept getting worse, when I have to start reading the readers, and it's almost like it's not like a continuum. I think you'll find like you'll hit something where there's a noticeable change, and you have to even mourn it a little bit. You have to grieve for what you once had a little bit. That is perfectly normal. But then what you do realize is, wow, I once had that. I don't have as much of that, but I still have this, and I appreciate it all the more. So as we go along this journey where it seems like we have to do what we need to do with less, perhaps a little less flexibility, a little less of this, we also understand how much more precious what we do have is. So it helps you embrace what you do have, and it helps you sort of let go of perhaps things that are less necessary. Because when you're young and you're type A, you are able to do a lot of things. It's almost like we're greedy to do all of it, right? When you
yes.
get older, right, you have to start making the choices. But that is not necessarily a bad thing. Because when you realize, oh, I didn't think I could let go of this thing, or I didn't think I could let go of this need, and you let go of it, suddenly you feel lighter. Suddenly you feel freer. Suddenly you understand a little bit more what really matters to me, right? And so, hand in hand with kind of shedding a little bit of ability, I'm sad to say, you also shed a little bit of necessary extraneous things. Do I really need to worry about that? Do I really, am I really going to harp on another person about that? Because at the end of the day, I lost my mother to cancer when she was only 77 years old.
I did not
And
know
going
that.
that through that experience, it really brings home to you how life is precious and we do not know how much time any of us have, right? So, as painful as that experience was, the flip side of it is I do not take anything for granted now. Every day, every joy, every interaction I have with a person, every chance I have to discover something new or learn something new is a gift. And because of that, I just have so much to be joyful about, right? Doesn't mean I do everything perfect. I could be much better on my sleep habits still, okay? But the idea that when I start getting like overwhelmed and saying there's too much to do, there's too much to do, I can pull back and say, really, what is most important at this point? Where do my values lie? What is most important to me? If all else was different, if all we had was tomorrow or the next week, what would I want to fill it with? What would give me a sense of meaning and contribution, perhaps? Or just what is it that would make me feel like this is a life well lived, right? So
Yes.
don't worry, going down the road, it's long, it's wonderful. Things will change. They will always change, but you will just discover more and more about yourself. And I just think there's this sort of general karmic balance in the world, right? As you maybe something is kind of carved away or taken away, you see something more in the negative space and it's filled with something that you didn't expect. So you just stay open. You just stay open to what the new experience will be, and it'll be
and
full
and present.
and
Very
present.
important. Yes. Oh my God, Angie, that was an unexpected turn of conversation. I feel I learned a lot about, I am afraid to not name it properly, but I'm just gonna go with my impression, and I hope that you can correct me if I don't word it, correctly. Um, but I feel I just learned a little bit. I do realize how little of a glimpse into Chinese philosophy this was. Like when you talked about yin yang.
Oh, yeah,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm trying to pronounce it correct. Like,
Yeah.
and this idea, this concept of you need to push against something to really appreciate um,
You
like what
know,
you have. Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
I think it's almost a universal concept. And then what it is different cultures find different ways to describe it. I just particularly love the yin yang, but it's almost like the idea that without the darkness, you can't see what the light is, because without the contrast,
absolutely.
it doesn't give it definition, right? So if everything was just all light all the time, or happiness, what we think of as happiness, perhaps, or good things, without the contrast of knowing what it is like to be without it, we don't appreciate it. We really don't. Um, I could, throw that out. I live in America, and let me be frank, I love this country so much. But right now, oftentimes I'm like scolding America because it has had it so
Oh,
good for so long that it just does not appreciate what it's had. And it's like, what is that song? Joni Mitchell, right? They pave paradise and put a parking lot. You don't know what you lose until it's gone. You don't know what you miss until it's gone, right? I don't wish that on anyone. But what I do feel like is when we have both of them, it gives it definition. So it's okay. Life is never going to be without suffering and difficulties. But let's just hope that it is just enough so that it is also always going to be filled with those moments of joy. Like you said, being present, right? Uh,
yes, Angie. Oh my God. Thank you so much for this. This was a great learning experience for me. I am very sure that this will be a very good learning experience for those who will listen to this podcast. Um, I
well,
hope that we'll get, oh, sorry. I,
no, it's my pleasure. And thank you for even inviting me. I mean, I did not invent any of what I said. So I would just humbly submit. But they have been things that I feel have helped me. And the last thing I'll say is, you
yeah,
ask how I stay young. I'm just
yes.
perpetually immature. It's like I
That
never
helps.
stop being a child. So
That
there you
helps.
go.
Yes, perfect. Yes, thank you so much. Yes, that's a really good point. Our inner child will sometimes I feel it will direct you if you can find a way to talk to your inner child. But that's a whole other conversation.
That's right.
And this has been really insightful. Thank you so much for talking to us today, to me, to our listeners about um, staying young, staying energetic, staying healthy to the extent possible, accepting imperfections, areas of darkness, maybe, and giving us some tips and hopefully inspiring some of our listeners to try on maybe some Tai Chi I definitely am going to try. I promise you. I commit to trying it within the next month or so.
Oh, you'll
Uh,
have to let me know how it turns out,
yes, I'll report
Valeria.
back gladly. Thank you so
Well,
much, Angie.
you're welcome. It's my pleasure.